Alrighty, so in the previous topic, we looked at planning, and students did all the research and the planning, and now we're looking at preparing, getting the stuff ready to actually carry out the study. So, yeah, five lessons here designed for this, looking at the ethical considerations, things like informed consent, then figuring out the procedures, what they're actually going to do, a lesson just so they can have time to produce materials, and then do a pilot study, and then just a placeholder lesson really for time to conduct their experiment. Although they're most likely going to do this outside of class time, but depends on how you structure the course. So ethical considerations, and here's just a quick recap. Right, true, false. Just to give a bit of movement, I get students to point and then choose which side of the room they go to. Right, and so this is how they should have. This is what they should have by the end of the lesson. Now, the more they can do early on, like getting parental consent forms done, getting debriefing forms written, standardized procedures. Think about all those things they have to go in their appendices. The earlier they can get all those finished, the more likely it is that they're going to be able to complete their first draft in full. Alrighty. Now, an activity here, basic activity, yay or nay, would they approve it or would they deny it? And if maybe they'd say yes, but under some conditions, like what would they have to do in order to approve their study? For example, to test to see if the placebo effect is real, one researcher gives the participants the fake pills, tells half they are memory boosters and the other half that they're fake. Then they do a memory test. So testing the placebo effect. Now students have to think, hopefully they're thinking and talking about in their groups, what would be the possible negative effects of this, and then how can they reduce the chances of those negative effects, having a long-term effect. That's basically like, well, what could go wrong? How might participants feel about it? So that's one. See if would they, and I mean the basic. They should say, yeah, that's fine. No, it's not, and then they can go further. I would give maybe a minute and a half to talk about each of these. Stress on test performance. They might relate to this one, right? Tell them that they've got a pass-fail test. If you pass this, you pass IB. If you fail it, you fail. And the other classes say it's a practice test and see if stress affects their performance. Would they yeah or nay? Because then now, hopefully, they'll be able to put themselves in that situation to go, wait, no, you can't do that. I'd be freaking out. And that might help them relate a little bit more to the idea of ethics, right? Understanding the effect of our research on participants. And then, anyone who doesn't like exercise, like me, would be relate to this one. All right, so that's just a little hook. As always, go for it or skip it if you think time's tight. I would get them just to read the guidelines on page 360. And this table in the workbook is designed, so here is stuff that they have to tell their participants, and hopefully they're going to be reading and making note of this. It's things like, okay, you've got the right to withdraw, you can be, your data is going to be anonymous, but also it should be things specific to their research, right? And then here it's about, okay, when do we tell them? Do we tell them before, do we tell them after? And that's getting a little bit more tricky. Alright, now I would give them some time here to create their informed consent forms. There's a template in the files, so if you want to give them that and they can adapt that, that could save a bit of time. And I would encourage students to keep delegating. So, I mean, if you've got groups of 4, there's no point 4 students sitting around one informed consent form. I don't think it's a good use of time, so yeah, just remind them to delegate. You might want to use this slide here for a bit of chalk and talk. And, again, so I don't think this is time wasted at going over this stuff in more detail, because this is helping them understand ethical considerations. So if we think about paper 1 and paper 2, if they're asked about ethics, informed consent is probably one of the most common that they write about. So here they're really getting first-hand experience of the research process. So we don't want to gloss over this and forget about the bigger picture of why we're getting them to do these things. And the why is so they get an understanding of first-hand experience of conducting the research. Right. Here's just a general idea of what the informed consent should contain. And yeah, again, there's a template in the file, so you can have a look at that as well. Alright, so by the end of this lesson, they should have had their informed consent form, and they might have got to the debriefing, but that could come a little bit later on if they haven't quite got it at this stage. And again, I think the debriefing can come in 2 ways if they like. One, directly after they finish the experiment, like, thank you for participating, this was our aim, and then they might have a follow-up email where they reveal their results and do a full debriefing in that way. But yeah, again, you can see examples in the example IA that's in the files. Alright, so again, homework, and then we look at procedures.